Hello and welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform that gives you a world of courses, resources, content, live and recorded sessions of your favorite educators on the topics of your interest to accelerate and enhance your preparation for the CA foundation and final examination. Crack CA exams with us is a vertical of Unacademy that caters to the CA foundation students, CA intermediate students, and in their preparation and pursuit of the CA foundation and the CA intermediate examination, where they give you top educators, quality content, and overall a great learning experience. So come, let's crack CA exams with Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. I welcome you to the session today. Before we proceed, a little about the educator today, that is me. Hello, I'm Prathik Gupta. I'm a Bachelor of Commerce from Christ College, Bangalore University. I'm an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. I'm an associate member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India and an associate member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I'm also a law graduate from Karnataka State Law University and currently a practicing chartered accountant. I'm also a visiting faculty for CA subjects and an educator for CA students both offline and online. Prior to starting on my own, I worked with SR Bartley Boy and Associates, that's the Indian member firm of Ernst & Young Global, in the Audit and Assurance Department. Then I worked with EY India, that is Ernst & Young India, in the Mergers and Acquisition Department. I also worked with the Manipal Group as the corporate controller of their Indian entity and their German subsidiary located in Frankfurt, Germany. It was only when I got back from Frankfurt, Germany, did I decide to start something on my own. And here I am today having this opportunity to take this session for you bright and enthusiastic CA aspirants. So thank you for making it to my session today, and I hope you find it useful and beneficial. So please do give me your feedback and also let me know in case you have any questions during the session. So now Unacademy has three platforms. One is the YouTube platform that we are currently watching, which is again a free platform. Then we have the special class platform, which is on the YouTube, which is on the Unacademy Learning App, which more about which I will tell you in the time to come. And the special classes are also free classes which cover interesting and various important topics that are important for your examination, as well as YouTube. So you have many free sessions provided by Unacademy on YouTube and the Unacademy Learning App, which could be of very good use to you for your preparation in the final examination. And then the Unacademy has the Plus platform, which is a payment-based subscription model, which gives you various packages and also gives you enhanced features and facilities which help you enhance and accelerate your preparation for the CA foundation and the intermediate examination. So in the Plus platform, what do you get? Like I told you, it is a payment based subscription model. So in this payment based subscription model, that is the Plus model of Unacademy, you get daily live classes where you get to choose your educator, chat with your educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts and answer polls, all while the class is going on. Yes, you heard it right, all while the class is going on. You do not need to wait for another day, you do not need to wait for an appointment, you do not need to wait for a weekend, or you do not need to wait for an end of the class. You can simply put your hands up and ask your queries and doubts as you do in a live classroom, and your educator will be more than happy to answer them for you and also discuss your doubts and help you in answering the polls. The second reason of how the Plus platform of Unacademy accelerates and enhances your preparation for the CA foundation and intermediate course is it provides live tests and quizzes. These live tests and quizzes help you evaluate your preparation, and there are also regular mock tests and quizzes that are conducted on the Plus platform of Unacademy that help you get a detailed analysis of your performance. By detailed analysis of your performance, I simply mean that these mock tests, quizzes, live tests help you identify your weak areas, your strong areas, and your not so strong areas of your preparation. So you can spend more time on your weak areas, a little lesser time on your not so strong areas, and less time on your strong areas, thereby resulting in minimum wastage of time and maximum utilization of time. The third reason why the Plus platform of Unacademy enhances and accelerates the preparation for your CA foundation and intermediate examination are the courses provided by the Plus platform of Unacademy are structured courses. They are structured courses because they are in line with your exam syllabus and they help you best prepare for it. So once you are done with a particular course on the Plus platform, you can rest assured that you've covered the syllabus for your examination and no important or major topic has been left out. So that way, the Plus platform provides structured courses for you to enhance and accelerate your preparation for the CA Foundation and CA Intermediate examination. And lastly and most importantly, one subscription to the Plus platform of Unacademy gives you unlimited access to the live and recorded courses of the world of the Plus platform of Unacademy to watch from the comfort of any of your devices, which simply means you can watch all the sessions on your mobile phone, your tablet, your laptop, or your desktop without any restriction, and most importantly, without any timing or location restrictions. It is available to you 24/7 at wherever you go, and all you require is a good Wi-Fi connection or a good data plan, and your job is done. And this generation, most of us are pretty blessed with the data plan, so I see no reason why you cannot access the contents of the Plus platform by the click of a button, and it's all available at your fingertips. So the last and the most important reason why the Plus platform is important and recommended to you is the one subscription to the Plus platform gives you unlimited access to the world of live and recorded courses to watch from and any comfort of your devices. All right, so I strongly recommend to you and encourage you to become part of the Plus platform of Unacademy and enhance and accelerate your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate courses. In addition to this, you also have various courses on YouTube and special classes conducted on the Unacademy Learning App, which will also help you in your preparations. More about which I will tell you in the further slides. For those of you who have not downloaded the Unacademy Learning App yet, I request you to go to your Play Store on your mobile phone, download and install the Unacademy Learning App and register on it using a mobile phone, where an OTP will be sent to your mobile phone, and then you register on it using the OTP on your mobile phone. It is as simple as that. And in case you have any problems while registering or using the Unacademy app, you can always chat with the concerned people who are available to help you 24/7. All right, so once you download the OTP, once you download the Unacademy Learning App and register on it using the OTP, then what it does is it helps you in accessing the various special classes and the Plus platform of Unacademy, which in turn opens your door or opens your gateway to the world of content, courses, resources, live and recorded sessions that Unacademy has to provide to you, and also various other beneficial features which will help you in enhancing and accelerating your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examination. And for those of you who have downloaded the Unacademy Learning App and are using it, I thank you very much, and I request your support in the future as well. And I'm very sure that you're deriving a lot of benefits as promised from the Unacademy Learning App, and which is helping you in your preparation for the final, for the CA Foundation and the Intermediate course. Thank you once again. Now, like I told you, the Plus platform of Unacademy is a payment-based subscription model which has various subscription packages for the various examinations. The CA Foundation and Intermediate subscription packages provided under the Plus platform of Unacademy are as follows. The packages provided are for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months and 24 months. The normal price of a 1 month package is rupees 3,500. The normal cost of a 3 month package is rupees 8,750. The normal cost of a 6 month package is rupees 14,000, and the normal cost of a 12 month package is rupees 17,500, and the normal cost of a 24 months package is rupees 21,000. All right, while you have various options of 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, I personally recommend to you to go for the 12 month package or the 24 months package, and this is for the following reasons. If you look at the per month cost of the 1 month package and compare it with the per month cost of the 12 months and the 24 months package, you will see that it's almost less than 1/3 of the per month cost. That's the first reason. And second reason, as the CA Foundation and Intermediate subscription both are being provided to you in one package. I repeat, the CA Foundation and the subscription Intermediate subscription is being provided to you in one package. It makes sense for you to go for at least the 12 months because it normally takes about a year's time for you to prepare for your foundation and prepare and clear your foundation and the intermediate exams. So if you're getting a cost-effective solution and also for the duration of the entire course that you're preparing for, that is foundation and intermediate, it really makes sense for you to go for the 12 months package at least, if not the 24 months. But I suggest you to go for the 12 months or the 24 months. Now, having decided on the 12 months or 24 months package, I request you to use the code Prathik, P-R-A-T-H-I-K, on your page when you're about to make a payment. This will give you an additional discount of 10% on the listed price of whatever the prices that are listed above. So I repeat, please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get a discount of 10% on the listed price. So the after discount price of the various packages are: the 1 month package will cost you rupees 3150. Just a second. Alright, so the 1 month package will cost you after discount, it will cost you rupees 3150. The 3 month package will cost you rupees 7875. The 6 month package will cost you rupees 12,600. The 12 month package will cost you rupees 15,750, and the 24 months package will cost you rupees 18,900. So you see directly you get a discount of 10% savings when you use the code Prathik, P-R-A-T-H-I-K, at the time of making the payment. So please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get a discount of 10%. And also, I personally suggest you to go for the 12 months or the 24 months package. Another benefit that you can derive is there is a no cost EMI option available for the 6 month, 12 months and 24 month subscription packages. So for those of you who do not want to pay the entire money at one shot, there is a zero cost EMI option for the 6, 12 and 24 months packages. So I request you to make use of this package as well, and whatever package you choose, do not forget to use the code Prathik to get a discount of 10% on the listed price. Next, like I told you, that the Unacademy Learning App is there where you get the special classes and the plus courses. And like I told you, the special classes are the classes that are of various important topics that are taken on the Unacademy Learning App platform. These are free classes, and obviously you do not have to pay anything to attend these classes. All you need to do is download the Unacademy Learning App, register on it using your mobile phone, and simply start using the app. So you will get access to all the special classes. So I have taken number of special classes on the Unacademy Learning App. A few of the sessions that I've taken are the revision test papers for May 2019 business laws issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Sale of Goods Act, the Indian Contracts Act, the Sale of Goods Act 1930, the Indian Contracts Act 1872, and the Companies Act 2013. I have taken various 3 hours, 4 hours sessions on the special classes on the Unacademy Learning App. So I request all of you to access these classes, make use of it, and in case you have any feedback or any questions, please ask me and I will be more than happy to answer them for you. And these are just one of the many topics that I've taken. I've taken about 7 hours on Companies Act 2013, 3 hours, 4 hours each on the Indian Contract Act 1872. Sale of Goods Act is again 3 to 4 hours. Division test papers is again about 6 to 7 hours. So we've discussed everything in detail as far as possible. So once you go through those sessions, you will find it very useful in your preparation. And also, I would like to say that this Sunday I'm coming up with a lot of special classes which will help the CA Foundation and the CA intermediate student to prepare for these examinations. So the Sunday there are various special classes that I will be taking up. So I request you to download the Unacademy Learning App as soon as possible, register on it, and also go to my profile Prathik Gupta and click on the follow button in order to get live updates about the timings and topics of my session. And also in the next 3 to 4 days I will be taking a lot of sessions on YouTube that will help you also in your preparation of the CA Foundation and intermediate examination. So please stick on. My next session will be on YouTube tomorrow at 5 p.m. and again another session at 7 p.m. tomorrow on YouTube. So I request all of you to be there and make the most of these sessions, so the YouTube sessions and the special classes that are scheduled on Sunday, more about which will be told to you in the coming up classes on YouTube. So I request you to stay tuned and attend all my sessions. And here are a few of the links to the various sessions that I've taken on the Unacademy Learning App. I have taken sessions on the Indian Contracts Act 1872, Sale of Goods Act 1930, the Indian Partnership Act 1932, Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, the Companies Act 2013, the Basics of Communication, Accounting Concepts and Revision Test Papers for May 2020 Business Laws. Similarly, there are revision test papers taken for November 2019, May 2019, November 2018, and all have been discussed in depth so that the important questions that the institute has issued as revision test papers are not missed out, and you find the answers, and obviously all those sessions, it was a live doubt clearing session as well. So whatever doubts the viewers had, they immediately posted it, and those were cleared on a real-time basis. Similarly, after going through these sessions, if you have any doubts, you can still message me and get in touch with me, and I will be happy to clear your doubts. All right, and in case you need to view any of these sessions, simply click on the link as provided on your screen, and you will be directed to those sessions on the Unacademy Learning App. Oh, yes, and obviously, if you have not used the Unacademy Learning App before, you will be requested to download it and register on it using your mobile number, which I request you to do in order to avail all the benefits and the features that Unacademy has to provide to you to help you enhance and accelerate your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate course. All right. Okay, now in the meantime, we have a question. We have Manoj who's joined in. Manoj, what is the use of this? Manoj, we are talking about the Unacademy platform, which is India's largest online learning platform, and which helps you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate course. Right now, I'm handling the CA Foundation and the Intermediate course. So it helps you in your preparation that by providing you live and recorded sessions on the important topics and the syllabus of your examination. So in case you are a CA student and you are doing your CA Foundation or the Intermediate course, it will be very beneficial for you. Now I'm saying this because we have a question on the YouTube link. So I'm explaining it to Mr. Manoj Karthik. Right, Manoj? And please do spread the word across to your circle as well about the special classes and the YouTube classes that Unacademy takes. And also let us know in case you have any topics on which you would want a YouTube or a special class session. All right. So like I told the viewers, you may go through any of these links to view those sessions, and also give me a feedback and ask me any questions you have. These are few of the various sessions that have been taken on the platform. Okay, I hope you find them useful. Now, the session that we're going to take today is on interpretation of statutes. Now, what do you mean by interpretation of statutes? Now, statutes, as we know, are laws which are made. India, I think, is the country with the highest number of laws. So the statute is the basic language of the law, and how do we interpret it? Because see, different people will have different interpretation. The same word may have a different meaning in different situations, and the same clause might mean different to different people, and people might read it differently. So it is very important for a rule or a blanket applicability to come into the picture, which allows everyone to read the law as one. Okay, because it will not serve the purpose if everyone who reads the law has a different definition and interpretation of the law. It has to be the same. The meaning has to be the same, and then if the meaning is the same, then the applicability also becomes the same. Okay, so then that is what we mean by interpretation of statutes. And then in this discussion, we will talk about the various tools or the various methods in which the statutes are interpreted. What are statutes? What are the external aids to interpretation? What are the internal aids to interpretation? And henceforth. So all those things will be discussed today. And this is also a part of the CA intermediate examination. So all the CA intermediate students especially are requested to pay attention to this, and which will help them in their examination. So please do gear up, and let's start the session. Introduction. Now we just start off with what do you mean by this chapter and set the ground rules for this chapter. This study relates to interpretation of statute, deeds, and documents. So first of all, we need to understand what these terms and some other terms denote. So the chapter is on interpretation of statutes, deeds, and documents. That means how do you interpret a law? How do you interpret documents? How do you interpret deeds? And these rules have been framed in order so that everyone who reads them gets the same uniform meaning from them, and only then their applicability can be uniformly done. First of all, we must understand what these terms and other terms denote. It would therefore be important for us at this stage to understand the terms statute, document, instrument, deed, and interpretation. So we need to understand each of these words differently because these words will keep repeating in the chapter many times. Alright, so first let's look at statute. To the common man, the term statute generally means the laws and regulations of every sort without considering from which source they emanate. Okay, so for a common man, statute simply means laws and regulations of every sort without considering from where they emanate. That means for normal people, you and me, a statute means a law and all regulations made, but without regard to from where they emanate. However, the term statute has been defined as the written will of the legislature solemnly expressed according to the forms necessary to constitute it the law of state. Normally, the term denotes an act enacted by the legislative authority. Okay, now please remember, now as long as any act or any law is not passed by the Parliament of India, it does not become a law. It is called a bill. All right. So once it is passed by the Parliament of India, it becomes a law. Before that, it has to be passed by both the houses, the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Then it goes to the Parliament of India, then it goes to the President, and only after the President gives his assent to a particular bill, it becomes law. So, interpretation of statutes means nothing else but interpretation of the law as to what was the real context or the meaning in which it was written and how you should understand the terms of the same. All right. Now, the Constitution does not use the term statute, though one finds the term law used at many places. The law is defined as including an ordinance, order, bylaw, rule, regulation, notification, and the like. In short, statute signifies the written law in contradiction to unwritten law. Okay, so now law and statute are two terms that are used interchangeably, and a lot of people use it. So, in interpretation of statutes can also mean interpretation of laws. Okay, though one finds the terms law at many places. The term law is defined to include. So the term law by many people has been defined as including any ordinance. Ordinance means an order. An order is also an order. A bylaw is a subsection of the main law or a subdivision of the main law. Any rule that has been made in any law, regulation, notification, and the like. So any document or anything that has the characteristics of law, ordinance, law, order, bylaw, rule, regulation will be considered as law. In short, statute signifies the written law in contradiction to the unwritten law. Please remember, if a law is unwritten, it becomes very hard for interpretation and applicability, and hence it becomes very mandatory for the law to be in writing. So in statute signifies written law in contradiction to unwritten law. So statute simply means or forces or emphasizes on the written law and does not give regards to the unwritten law. All right. So document, that is the meaning of statute. Now let's talk about what do you mean by a document. Generally understood, a document is a paper or other material thing giving information, proof or evidence of thing. So generally a document is a paper or a material thing giving information, proof of evidence or anything. The law defines document in a more technical form. Section 3 of the Indian Evidence Act 1872 states that the document means any matter expressed or described upon any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of these means intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording that matter. So basically, it is nothing else but a medium on which words, alphabets, sentences, statements are embossed in order to make sense. Okay, and intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording that matter. Now, for example, a writing is a document. Any words printed is a document. Photographed are documents. So, anything that is done on a paper to give information is called a document. Example, a writing is a document. Any words printed on paper is a document. Photographs are documents. All right. Section 3(8) of the General Clauses Act 1897 states that the term document shall include any matter written, expressed, or described upon any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of these means, which is intended to be used or which may be used for the purpose of recording the matter. So in simple terms, it means a document means any written, expressed, or described upon any substance by means of letters, figures, or marks, or by more than one of these means which is intended. So if there are more than one means, that is more than one means in the sense letters, figures or marks, or all put together, if there are letters and figures, or letters and marks, or figures and marks also put on a paper in order to give information, then that is called as a document. Okay, please take about a minute, go through the slide, and then we proceed. It's very important to undergo or understand this chapter, Interpretation of Statutes, because in business law you have a lot of statutes, a lot of laws, and when you're reading your section numbers, the explanation for that, the subsection numbers, the headings, it becomes very important for you to know how to interpret it and how to read, because it should all read as one to whoever is reading the law. Law cannot mean differently to different people. Okay, please take about a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Okay, generally, documents comprise of the following elements. Elements of documents. First is matter. This is the first element. Its usage with the word any shows that the definition of document is comprehensive. Okay, so matter means anything that is there on a that is recorded. It could be statements, it could be pictures, it could be marks or signs, whatever that is, whatever the matter is, it should be recorded somewhere, and that becomes a document. Second is record. This second element must be certain mutual or mechanical device employed on the substance. It must be writing, expression, or description. That means using some external mechanical device like a pen. You need to draw some drawings on a paper, or you need to make a mark, or you need to write some statements or words. Then that becomes matter, or that becomes a document. So the first elements of document is matter. The second element of documents is record. That means something should be recorded. The third is substance. This is the third element on which the mental or intellectual elements comes to find a permanent form. That means whatever matter has been put on the paper in the form of statements, words, photographs, or pictures or marks, they should mean something. They should not be something rubbish. They should mean something, and it should impact the intellectual or the mental state and make sense. Then it is in the prescribed form, then it is said to be a document. Means this represents the fourth elements by which such permanent form is required, and those can be letters, any figures, marks, symbols which can be used to communicate between two persons. So it should obviously, whatever the marks or whatever is done on the paper using an external means should be a means of communication, like figures, marks, symbols, which are used to communicate between two or more persons. Only then does a piece of paper with some writings and marks on it become a document. All right, now we look at instrument. Instrument, in common parlance, instrument means a formal legal document which creates or confirms a right or records a fact. It is a formal writing of any kind, such as agreement, deed, charter, or record drawn up and executed in a technical form. So basically an instrument means a legal document which has been mainly made or produced in a particular form, and it contains an agreement, deed, charter, or record, and it has to follow the prescribed technical form. Okay, it also means the formal legal document having legal effect, either as creating liability or as affording evidence of it. So any document, any legal document which either creates a liability or it helps as a evidence is also an instrument. Section 214 of the Indian Stamp Act 1899 states that instrument includes any document by which any right or liability is or purports to be created, transferred, extended, extinguished, or recorded. So as per the Indian Stamp Act 1899, an instrument means any document, we just saw the definition of document on top, by which any right or liability is or purports to be created, transferred, extended, extinguished, or recorded. So any document through which any liability or right is created, transferred, extended, extinguished, or recorded is known as an instrument. Please take about a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. A deed. Let's look at the next information. Deed. The legal glossary defines deed as an instrument in writing or other legible representation of words or parchment of paper, purporting to have some legal disposition. Simply stated here, deeds are instruments. True, all instruments may not be deeds. However, in India, no distinction seems to be made between instruments and deeds. So simply put, deeds are documents which create a legal obligation or a legal relationship. Now, example of deed could be a partnership deed. It could be a agreement. A rental agreement is also known as a deed, or it could be in a deed of dissolution of a firm. So all these are documents that create legal obligations and legal relationships. Okay, so that is what a deed means. And in India, there is no distinction between an instrument and a deed, as they mean the same. In India, both an instrument and a deed are documents that create legal obligations. All right. Then we look at interpretation. Interpretation. By interpretation is meant the process by which the court seeks to ascertain the meaning of legislature. Legislature means the law, through the medium of the authoritative forms which is expressed. Simply stated, interpretation is the process by which the real meaning of an act or a document and the intention of the legislature in enacting it or of the parties executing the document is ascertained. So simply put, we saw the meaning of this. The heading of the chapter is Interpretation of Statutes, right? So all right, so I have another viewer of mine. Hi, Himanshi Chaudhary. Hi, Himanshi. Good evening. How are you? Thanks for joining in. Welcome to the session. Okay, so simply stated, interpretation is the process by which the real meaning. Interpretation of statutes is the real process by which the real meaning of the act or a document in the case and the intention of the legislature. That means, firstly, you need to know what is the meaning of that act, and also you need to go back into the legislature former's shoes. That whoever formed the legislation at 1899 or 1872 or 1930, at that point, what was he thinking, and in what circumstances did he make it? See, obviously, when a law was made, and if you see most of these laws, they are pretty old. Like you have the Indian Contracts Act 1872, the Indian Stamps Act 1899. You have the Indian Evidence Act 1872. So all these were made about more than 140 years before. So at that point also the people would have thought about something and made it, right? So while we are interpreting a law or getting the real meaning of the law, we also need to know what was the intention of the legislature in enacting it or preparing it. All right, so that is also a process of interpretation of statutes, which we will see when we go further. Interpretation signifies expounding the meaning of abstruse words in writings. Abstruse words means words which have more than one meaning. Writings also. Making out their meaning, explaining, understanding them in a specific manner. A person is thereby aided in arguing, contesting, and interpreting the proper significance of a section, a proviso, explanation, or schedule to an act or document, deed, or instrument. Please remember that in every law there are various sections, subsections, case studies, explanatory notes, schedules, and headings, and it's very easy for a person to take the whole interpretation of the law in his own favor or however he feels like, but that's not what the real intention of the person making the legislature was. So the interpretation of statute actually means what was the purpose for which the legislature made this law, or what was the mischief which was supposed to be taken care of by implementing that law. So while interpreting any law or any statute, we also need to take care of that. Firstly is the meaning, the real meaning, and whether the real meaning is what the person who made the legislature was intending to do. If there is a conflict, then we will see what needs to be done in the future. All right, please take about a minute, go through this slide, and then we proceed. Take about a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Next, now we do the classification of interpretation. Okay, interpretation also has various classes. So we classify how interpretation is. Firstly, it can be a legal interpretation. It is legal when there is actual rule of law which binds the judge to place a certain interpretation of the statute. It is doctrinal when its purpose is to discover real and the true meaning of the statute. Legal interpretation is subdivided into authentic and usual. It is authentic when the rule of interpretation is derived from the legislature itself, and it is usual when it comes from some other source as custom or law. Okay, now what it means. Now see, what are the various classes of interpretation you have? The first one is legal. Legal means strictly as per the law or actual rule of law which binds the judge. So if something is mentioned there, the judge follows it verbatim and he binds the judgment according to what is given as per the terms verbatim. It is doctrinal interpretation when the actual purpose is to find the real meaning, true meaning of the statute. That means we need to go a little behind, we need to do some analysis and find out what was the legislature thinking that when he made this law. For example, a legal thing will be, let's say a person has murdered someone and he's standing in front of the judge, and of course he confesses to his crime. So it's a simple forward thing. If the law says a person has committed a murder, so for this murder this is the punishment, the judge does not need to think too much about what it says. If the section says the punishment for murder is life imprisonment or capital punishment, he just simply pronounces it. So that is the legal interpretation of law or statutes. All right, even the legal. And then doctrinal is when there is a provision which can mean either in both ways. In such a case, it is for the judge to interpret what the real meaning is and what was the legislator thinking when he made the law. Now, legal interpretation is divided into authentic and usual. Authentic is when the rule is derived from the law itself. That means you don't need to think too much. The law tells you what needs to be done, and there is no much scope for interpretation. Then it is authentic. But it is usual means normally, precedingly, how the judges have interpreted that law and what decisions they've made. Based on that trade practice, they take a decision. So that is known as usual. All right. Now, doctrinal. Like I told you, doctrinal is when you need to find the real meaning of the law, the situation in which the law was made, the mischief that the law aimed to control or address. All that is doctrinal. Interpretation may again be divided into two categories, grammatical and logical. It is a grammatical when the court applies only the ordinary rules of speech for finding out the meaning of the words used in the statute. On the other hand, when the court goes beyond the words and tries to discover the intention of the statute in some other way, then it is said resort to what is logical and distinct. So even in the doctrinal interpretation, there is logical and grammatical. Grammatical is when the judge or the person who is enacting or implementing the law is trying to find out the real meaning of the words and what the words could mean in different situations, and then he interprets the law. Then it is known as a grammatical interpretation. But when he uses a logical interpretation simply means that he's trying to find the logic that why was this law made, what was the mischief that was being trying to cover from this law. So that is the difference between a grammatical interpretation and a logical interpretation, which come under doctrinal. So doctrinal basically means to find the real meaning of the law and what was the purpose for which the law was enacted. Please take about a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Please note, I just need to give you time so that you read it, and in case you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, take about a minute, go through this. Okay. Now, interpretation and construction. Now, these are again two important terms which we will encounter in this chapter, and we need to know the meaning of this. Interpretation and construction. It would be worthwhile to note at this stage itself the difference between the terms interpretation and construction. While more often than not the two terms are used interchangeably to denote a process adopted by the courts to ascertain the meaning of the legislative form in which it is expressed, these two terms have different connotations. So although we all take it for granted that Interpretation and construction means the same thing, but actually it means differently, and we will see the differences now. Interpretation and difference between interpretation and construction. Interpretation differs from construction. Interpretation is for finding out the true sense of any form, and the construction is the drawing of conclusion, respecting subjects that lie beyond the direct expression of the next text. Okay, so now the first difference between interpretation and construction is interpretation tries to find out the real meaning of the law. That why was that law made, what was the mischief against which that law was made, and to counter which problem the law was made. In that way it can be interpreted. Construction, on the other hand, simply means conclusion, drawing conclusions from the various subjects and the various laws and come at an end point. Okay, so this means this is the final conclusion, and this is what the judgment we need to give. So beyond the direct expression of the text, it also means a little bit of reading between the lines. Construction will also mean reading between the lines. So let's take, for example, if a person says, I'm talking about a statement, a general statement. Let's say a person says that today I don't want to go out of the house. Okay, now it's a simple straight sentence. Today I don't want to go out of the house. But it can also be concluded, if you're constructing it, it can also be concluded by saying that, okay, maybe the person today he doesn't want to go out. It means tomorrow he may want to go out. So today he does not want to go out. That's why he's specifically saying today he does not want to go out, but he may want to. But that means that can be construed or constructed to mean that, okay, today he doesn't want to go out, but tomorrow he may want to go out. All right, so that is the meaning of construction. So at times even construction is important. Now we come to the second point. It is the duty of the courts to give effect to the meaning of an act when the meaning can be equitably gathered from the words used. Words of legal import occurring in a statute which have acquired a definite and precise sense must be understood in that sense. So this paragraph simply says that the courts, while giving their judgment, it is their duty to find out the real meaning of the law. Why was a particular law enacted and what was the mischief it was trying to address before it gives its judgment. And once they get to know this meaning, it makes their judgment even more easier. Okay, the words of legal import occurring in a statute which have acquired a definite and precise sense must be understood in that sense. Now this again falls back on the preceding, on a lot of previous proceedings of the court. So if any legal term has been construed or understood in a particular way by courts or judgments in the past, then those words will continue to be used and understood in the same sense. This is, in other words, you call it by trade or usage, right? We also use this in commercial terms, that if there is a particular trade practice that 30 days credit is given, 60 days credit is given, even though it's not written somewhere, but still that understanding continues. So those legal words which have meant something over the past many years or many practices, it will continue to mean the same thing. All right. When the legislature uses certain words which have acquired a definite meaning over a period of time, it must be assumed that those words must have been used in the same sense. Like I've told you again. Please take about a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Go through this, take about a minute, and then we proceed. Okay, now we come to the important term. Okay, we've discussed, we are discussing as to interpretation of statutes. Now let's try and understand why do we need interpretation of statutes? I mean, can't we just do without that? I mean, the law is written, there are headings, there are explanatory notes, there is a section, subsection, everything is written in plain English, right? It's pretty easy to understand. So why do we really need interpretation or construction? No doubt in modern times, the enacted laws are drafted by legal experts, yet they are expressed in language, and no language is a perfect language, so as to leave no ambiguities. Further, it is very true, a statute is an edict of the legislature, and many a time the intent of the legislature has to be gathered not only from the language, but the surrounding circumstances that prevented at the time when that particular law was enacted. If any provision of the statute is open to two interpretations, the court has to choose which interpretation it represents the true meaning or true intention of the legislature. Also, it is not within human powers to foresee the manifold set of facts which may arise in the future, and even if it were so, it is not possible to provide for them in terms free from all ambiguity. All these aspects add to give importance or prominence to the subject of interpretation and construction in the practical administration of law. So let's read it piece by piece, little by little. So it means, like I told you, every act is made in English. All right. So, okay, how difficult can English be? English is very easy to understand. So what is the need for interpretation? But please remember, there is no language which is perfect. There is no language or something which may not mean two different things to do different people. All right, there is no language like that, be it English, be it Hindi, be it any language. All right, so that is the reason why, the first reason why interpretation of statutes comes into the picture. Okay, now also remember that whenever who is enacting the legislature or who is enforcing the legislature, the courts, and whenever there is any clause which can have two meanings, it is the duty of the court to get the meaning that most closely represents the meaning that the legislature or the act was supposed to give. The court simply cannot say, okay, this sentence is here, so I'm applying it and it's done. The court has to find out the real meaning of that law was and why was the law made. If any provision of the statute is open for two interpretations, the court has to choose that interpretation which represents the true intention of the legislature. All right. Now, to find out the true intention of the legislature, there are various means and methods which we will discuss further, which the courts adopt in order to get the true meaning of the or intention of the legislature, because it is very important, because in case the legislature is not interpreted and the true intention of the legislature does not come up, it could mean a lot of hardships to someone who is convicted. Also, it is not within human powers to foresee the manifold set of facts. Okay. Now, also this last part of the paragraph means that as humans, now if a law was made 120 years ago, obviously we were not there. So we do not know what was the intention to make it, and obviously we are not going to be there for the next 100 years. So after 100 years, the situation might change. 100 years back, the situation was different. So we need to have an impact of both, or look at both. 100 years back, what was the situation? Why was it possibly made? And how this could influence 100 years down the line? And what are the changes that could be made in them? All these aspects. So the first aspect was language. The second aspect was clauses having more than one meaning, and the third reason was find out the true meaning or intention of the legislature. So because of these reasons, we need to interpret or construct a statute. These are the reasons which gave rise to interpretation or construction of a statute. All right, I request you to take a minute, go through this, and let me know in case you have any questions. Okay, now we come to the rules of interpretation and construction. Now remember, we are doing a chapter on interpretation of statutes. So now we look at the rules that we need to use while we are interpreting those statutes. Over a period, certain rules of interpretation construction have come to be well recognized. Again, this is due to usage and custom. However, these rules are considered as guides only and are not inflexible. Okay, so these are, as I said, these are guidelines, and obviously they are not inflexible. Okay, that means they are inflexible. They are flexible. These rules can be broadly classified as the follows. So these are the following rules which one can use or one has to use while interpreting any statute. The first one, the rule of literal construction, which again I'll briefly explain it to you, which means that whatever is meant, you need to go as per a strict construction or strict interpretation of the law, literally verbatim, and you cannot deviate from that. Then the rule of reasonable. In this, there is a little flexibility given that there is reasonable construction. If something means two different things, then we need to take the meaning what it reasonably aims to give. Okay, rule of harmonious construction is where you take a little bit of literal construction and a little bit of reasonable construction, mix the two, and you get a harmonious construction. Then you get a beneficial construction. Then that is that whenever you get an interpretation or law where you can take two meanings, you construct it in such a way that is beneficial to the person to whom it is being applied for. Then we have the first one, which is an exceptional construction, which simply means you have to construct or interpret a law by meaning or taking the exceptional, in exceptional circumstances, what it means, and then you need to interpret it in that way. And then we have the rule of ejusdem generis, which means what does it mean generally? In general parlance, in general application, what does the rule or interpretation mean? Then we will discuss each of these in detail in the further slides. And then we have secondary rules. We have the effect of usage, that is your normal trade or custom. How do we use a particular law or term? And then the interpretation is done accordingly. Then we have associated words to be understood in common sense manner. For example, if there are a certain set of words that come before a particular word, the meaning of which is understood, then the words that come before that and the words that come after that should be understood in the same sense. Okay, we will discuss that in further as well. So let's discuss. So just take about 30 seconds, go through this quickly, and let me know if you have any. Okay, now then we go to the primary rules. So the first one is rule of literal construction. Okay, now please remember we are going to go through each of these rules one by one in detail. The rule of literal construction. It is the cardinal rule of construction that words, sentences and phrases of a statute should be read in their ordinary, natural and grammatical meaning so that they have effect in their widest amplitude. At the same time, the elementary rule of construction has to be borne in mind that words and phrases of technical nature are prima facie used in their technical meaning, if they have any, and otherwise in their ordinary popular meaning. So this, like I told you, literal construction simply means that each word, phrase or sentence in a law or statute should be read as it is mentioned there without assigning any special meaning or trying to read between the lines. And because of this, you may get a wide meaning or amplitude to this. Okay, so you do not need to read too much between lines. You do not need to break your head too much. What is mentioned there? If the act says hang him, hang him. Do not think about anything else. That is what the literal construction means. Okay, and it says that if it has any words which are technical in nature, okay, technical means pertaining to particular domain. Like if, for example, if it's an accountant, he will mean debit, credit, okay, and profit or loss. So whatever in those technical terms, what it means, we will apply it there. And if they have any, and otherwise if they have any technical meaning, yes. If they do not have a technical meaning, then in the popular meaning of ordinarily by the mass crowd, how they use that term, it will be understood in that same term. Okay, like for example, when we go, for example, when we meet someone and we go, we say bye, right? Bye means okay, bye bye until we meet again. Or some people say so long. Now so long is not used in India very prominently. It is used in other countries. It's used in Britain. So if it says so long, then we need to find out what it means and what is the exact intention. Or we could mean that in generally, bye means okay until we meet again. So we take that kind of a meaning. Okay. Now, for example, when we talk of disclosure of the nature of concern or interest, financial or otherwise, of a director or manager or a company in a subject matter of a proposed motion. Now, please see, remember this example means that according to the Companies Act, when there is any contract or any item being discussed or voted upon, and if the director is interested, means the director has an interest in that, means it could be a company in which the director has in which the director is a shareholder, or in which the director's wife is a shareholder, or in which the director's relative is a shareholder. So he becomes interested in that contract, right? As referred to in section 102 of the Companies Act. For this, I request you to go through my sessions on Companies Act 2013 on Unacademy platform learning app as special classes. Okay, I have taken the Companies Act 2013 there, so I request you to go through all my sessions, the links of which were provided to you in the beginning. Go through the various special classes on the Unacademy Learning App and try and understand what the Companies Act 2013 is. Okay, we have to interpret in its broader sense that any concern or interest containing any information and facts that may enable members to understand the meaning, scope and implications of the terms of business and to take the decision. What is required is a full and frank disclosure without reservation or suppression. As for instance, where a son or daughter or father or mother or brother or sister is concerned in any contract or matter, the shareholders ought fairly to be informed of it and the material facts disclosed to them. Have a restricted, narrow interpretation would defeat the very purpose of the disclosure. So it simply means whenever this example means, normally see, when directors are interested in any contract, they need to give their full disclosure. Okay, so the law says full disclosure. So full disclosure means full disclosure. There is no scope to interpret it that he missed one, he gave 90% disclosure, he gave 80% disclosure. A disclosure means 100% disclosure, and in case the director fails to give that disclosure, he shall be held responsible for the same. So this is as per literal construction. Literal means full. What is mentioned there is no scope for reading between the lines or digging too much into it. If it says full disclosure or it just says disclosure, it means full disclosure. There is no scope of saying, no, I thought it was half disclosure or 90% was supposed to be given. No. Disclosure means 100%. That is what literal construction means. Please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Please take about a minute or so, go through this. Take about a minute more, go through this. Okay, now words used. What do you mean by words used in a popular sense? It deals with matters regarding the general public statute are presumed to use words in their popular sense. But to deal with particular business or transactions, words are presumed to be used with a particular meaning in which they are used and understood in a particular business. However, words in statutes are generally construed in their popular meaning and not in their technical meaning. Now, see, for example, a person in sports, in the sports domain, could mean, when he says something in the sports fraternity, it could mean something. When an accountant says the same thing, it could mean something in the accountants fraternity. When a lawyer says something, the same thing, it could mean differently in the lawyers fraternity. All right, so different words are treated or understood differently in different businesses or different environments. But that is not how a court interprets the law. So when a court interprets a law, it will not interpret it according a word or particular phrase into what it means with the technical meaning as to what a particular domain or a particular profession uses that word. But that word will be accepted and understood in the popular meaning. That is, most of the crowd generally, not irrespective of which domain, which technical background they belong to, what do people generally use it for, then it will be interpreted in that way. Now for example, one second, let me give you an example for this. Okay, now in cricket there is a shot called a drive. Okay, there is a cover drive, there is a straight drive, there is an on drive, there is an off drive. Okay, now a drive in cricket will mean one of those, that is an on drive, straight drive, cover drive, okay, or this thing. But that the word drive cannot be used to what, when the court interprets the word drive, it will not interpret it to mean what it means in cricket. Okay, or for example, let's say a drive can be in another profession, it could mean something else. So that's not what the courts will use it for. The drive will be used what popularly it is used for. Drive means driving a car, or there is a rally, or there is something, or there is a motion that is going on, that is a drive. The court will not interpret it as a cover drive or an on drive or an off drive. That's what this paragraph means, that if a particular word has a particular meaning, technical meaning, it will not be used, and the most popular meaning will be used. Okay, that's what this slide says, and not their technical meaning will be interpreted in their popular word. Reasonable corrections are not to override plain terms of a statute. Okay, now a construction that will render ineffective any part of the language of a statute will normally be rejected. Now it means simply that the interpretation in such a way that any part of the statute, any part of the language of a statute becomes useless, that interpretation will not be taken into effect, because again, like I told you repeated times, that we need to think about the person who made the law. So when he made the law, there was something he thought about, and that is what we need to catch or get the intention of the law. So if any construction or interpretation makes a part of the language of the statute as useless, then in that case, that interpretation will not be accepted and will be rejected. So that means anything given in the law cannot be said to be useless or ineffective. When the person who made the law was thinking about something when he made the law, and that something is what we need to catch while we are interpreting the law. Okay, for example, if an act plainly gives a right of appeal from one court of quarter sessions to another, it was held that such a provision, though extraordinary and perhaps an oversight, could not be eliminated. So we need to read it and say that the act gave the right of appeal from one court of quarter sessions to another. It was held that such a provision, though extraordinary and perhaps an oversight, could not be eliminated. Normally what happens, you can only make an appeal in a court higher to which the judgment is made. But if there is a clause in the act or a statute that says that a person can appeal from one session court to the other session court, then that entirely cannot be eliminated, because there was some thought process behind making that law, and that thought process is what we need to gather. All right. Different headings for literal construction. Now, even the literal construction can be done in a lot of ways. The one is when we have the natural and grammatical meaning as to what a word naturally means and the grammatical meaning. Then the explanation behind, if there is any explanation given to any word or phrases, then we need to look at that explanation and then interpret it accordingly. The exact meaning leading to loose meaning. If the exact meaning according to literal construction leads to a loose meaning, then that will not be accepted. And technical words in technical sense, like we discussed earlier, if there are any words which also have a popular meaning and a technical meaning, then the popular meaning will be taken into consideration. Please take about a minute, go through this slide, and then we proceed. Take about a minute more, go through this. Okay, now we come to the first part, the natural and grammatical meaning, different heads for literal construction. Statutes are first to be understood in their natural, ordinary or popular sense and must be construed according to their plan. Literal and grammatical meaning. If there is any inconsistency with any express intention or declared purpose of the statute, or it involves any absurdity, repugnancy, inconsistency, the grammatical sense must then be modified, extended, or abridged only to avoid such an inconvenience. Okay, so the first part, natural and grammatical meaning, while we are doing a literal reconstruction, literal construction. Firstly, the statute should be understood in their natural and ordinary meaning. That means what you read it normally, it should be understood in that way itself and must be construed according to their plain literal and grammatical meaning. Okay, of what it simply means. If there is inconsistency, if you actually take the normal and grammatical meaning, and if then there arises any inconsistencies, okay, about the intention or the declared purpose of the statute, or it involves any absurdity. Absurdity means weirdness or strangeness. Repugnancy means outdatedness or non-applicability. Inconsistency, the grammatical sense must then be modified, extended, or abridged only to avoid such an inconvenience. So when you're taking the normal meaning, not trying to think too much or read between the lines, when you're planning to take the normal meaning, in that case you should take the normal and the plain and grammatical meaning. But while doing so, in case you find out that the situation is getting out of hand, or the meaning that is coming out is not right, or the applicability is not there, or it is weird, or it is not applicable, then the grammatical meaning should be modified in order to find out the true intention or objective of the law. Okay, but not further. Example, in the question before the court, whether the sale of betel leaves was subject to sales tax. Okay, so there was a case going on in the court that whether betel leaves were subject to sales tax. In this matter, the Supreme Court held that the betel leaves could not be given the dictionary, technical, or botanical meaning when the ordinary and natural meaning is clear and unambiguous. Being the word of every use, it must be used in its popular sense by which people are conversant with it, and also the meaning which the statute dealing with the matter would attribute to it. Therefore, the sale of betel leaves was liable to sale tax. Okay, so now what happened? Now, while deciding the case that whether the sale of betel leaves was subject to sales tax, the Supreme Court held that when the ordinary meaning used in popular sense, or used by people in popular sense, is giving you a very clear and unambiguous meaning, then there is no need for you to get into botanical books and botanical dictionaries and find out the real meaning of betel leaves. And what the court accepted was what the betel leaves word means in its popular sense, or the mass sense, what measure of the crowd understood by the term betel leaves. And therefore, it concluded that the sale of betel leaves was liable to sale tax, because then there is no point arguing that no, betel leaves are plants, botanical properties, and plants are normally not subject to betel leaves. So in this case, the Supreme Court held that when the normal and the basic reading gives you a very clear and unambiguous meaning, it is not necessary for you to get into technical language and botanical books and botanical dictionaries. All right, please take a minute, go through this. Please go through this. Now we go to the second part, which is explanation, the different headings for literal constructions. Okay, now that means, it simply means what are the tools, or what are the things you can use for literal construction. The first was natural and grammatical meaning. Now we go for the explanation. Explanation of the rule. When it is said that words are to be understood first in their natural, ordinary, or popular sense, like we saw in the previous example of beetle leaves, it is meant that the words must be qualified, that natural, ordinary, or popular meaning which they have in relation to the subject matter, with reference to which and the context in which they have been used in the statute. The meaning of a word depend upon its text and context. In the construction of statutes, the context means the statute as a whole and other statutes in pari material, where two enactments have a common purpose in analogous case. Now, for example, explanation to the rule. Please remember that when we are doing a literal construction, we also need to take care the context in which it is being used. Now, if let's take, for example, if I say, I went on a drive. Okay, that means in the context of the thing, a drive will simply mean that I took a car and I went on a drive, or I went in someone else's car and I went on a drive. But whereas in a different context, saying that the batsman wanted to drive the ball and he slipped and he fell and he injured himself. In that case, obviously he cannot drive in a ball. So he meant hitting the ball in a particular way. All right, I'm using the cricket example again. So what the explanation of the rule means, while doing a literal construction, you also need to see the context in which a word is used and just not blindly follow any interpretation rules. Okay, the context in which a word is being used is also very important. Now let's think of another example in which the same word could mean differently in different contexts. Okay, I will tell you. Now let's look at the example. In construing of Andhra Pradesh General Sales Tax 1957, the word livestock means all domestic animals. Livestock means all domestic animals, but will not include chicks, construing in the popular sense, though in literal sense, animal refers to any and every animate object as distinct from inanimate objects. So now this again we have come through the context. So in the case of Andhra Pradesh General Sales Tax Rules 1957, the words livestock means all domestic animals but will not include chicks. But in the normal terms, livestock will also mean any living animal, or that is in the form of an animal and is living. But in case of this, because it was read in context of Andhra Pradesh General Sales Tax Rules, it was not taken as chick was not included in the definition of livestock. Okay, please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Take about a minute until I think of another example of different contexts. The same word could mean differently in different contexts. Okay, I can think of another word. Now, a lot of times when we talk to friends, or we talk to we talk in a very casual manner, we say hang on. Okay, hang on. When we say hang on, it means wait, right? But the same word hang on in different contexts could mean a different thing. Hang on could mean hanging on to something, and or hang on to something. Right, so we need to see in which context it was said. So, if, for example, in front of a court there comes a statement which says A told to be hang on. Okay, so court cannot take the literal meaning of hang on, that A told B to hang or B told A to hang, but it will mean hang on. That means in the trade parlance or in that context, he said hang on means wait. So that is what you mean by we need to take the context also into account when we're interpreting any law as per literal construction. So the first one was grammatical, second one is explanation. So when the explanation clause says that the context in which a particular word or phrase is used is also important while it's literal construction. All right, next, exact meaning preferred to loose meaning. So again, the third tool for literal construction is exact meaning is always preferred to a loose meaning. So if there's any word or phrase that gives you an exact meaning of a word, that meaning will be understood or taken into consideration than another meaning which gives you a loose meaning. All right. So let's understand this. There is another point regarding the rule of literal construction, that exact meaning is preferred to loose meaning in an act of parliament, as every word has a secondary meaning too. Therefore, in applying this rule, one should be careful not to mix up the secondary meaning with the loose meaning. Wherever the secondary meaning points to that meaning which the statute meant, preference should be given to that secondary meaning. So please remember, again and again I'm repeating it, that we need to keep in mind the intention of the statute. Okay, what was the mischief that the statute was trying to address while we are interpreting statutes? So another point we need to keep in mind when we're doing literal construction of statutes is exact meaning of a word or phrase is preferred to loose meaning. So if there is a word which can either be treated in an exact meaning of something or a loose meaning of something, we always take the meaning in which it is exact. Okay, let's take an example. The word obtain in a general sense means some request or effort to acquire or get something, but its secondary meaning is to acquire or get without any qualification. And if in a statute the secondary meaning is preferred, it cannot be said that preference has been given to loose meaning. So like we discussed so far, the same word it can either give you a definite meaning or it can give you a loose meaning. So whenever a word gives you a definite meaning and a loose meaning, the definite meaning should be taken into account while doing literal construction or literal interpretation of statutes. So now you might ask me, give me an example of a word which also gives you an exact meaning and a loose meaning. So let's think about an example. Let's think about a word. Okay, now a lot of times we use a slang word, right? We use a word saying, "Are you kidding me?" Okay, now "are you kidding me" means are you fooling me, or are you making fun of me, or are you ridiculing me, right? But if you take the exact meaning of "are you kidding me," it means are you making me a kid? Now, does it make any sense? Are you making me a kid? I mean, if you even hear it or you talk about it, it sounds very funny. Are you making me a kid? So when a same word, a same phrase, "are you kidding me," gives you a loose meaning and a definite meaning, the definite meaning should be taken in. So are you making me a kid is rubbish. It does not sound good. So "are you kidding me" means are you making fun of me, or are you trying to fool me? So that meaning will be taken into account. So an exact meaning is preferred to a loose meaning. That's an example of that. Okay. Now, technical words in technical sense. This point of literal construction is that technical words are understood in the technical sense only. Example, in construing of word practice in Supreme Court Advocates Act 1951, it was observed that practice of law generally involves the exercise of both the functions of acting and pleading on behalf of a litigant party. When legislature confers upon an advocate the right to practice in a court, it is legitimate to understand the expression as authorizing him to appear and plead as well as to act on behalf of suitors in that court. So, see, technical words in a technical sense means if there is any word which is used in a technical sense, then that meaning needs to be taken. For example, a certain technical sense only. If there are certain legal terms, then the legal terms have to be understood in a technical or legal terms only. You cannot get a general meaning of those words. So, like for example, in construing of words practice in Supreme Court Advocates Act, it was observed that practice could mean either you appear as a defendant for the plaintiff or as an appellant. You can practice as both. So what this meant was practice meant, even though practice is a general word, but when it came to a legal sense or technical sense in terms of legal language, then the term practice will mean to act for the pleader or against the pleader as well, or as the case may be. All right. So technical words in technical sense. Please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Take about a minute more. Okay. Now we look at the second rules for interpretation or construction of statutes. First one we looked at rule of literal construction. Now we look at rule of reasonable construction. All right. This is another interesting topic. Request you to pay attention. According to this rule, the words of a statute must be conferred ut res mages veliat quam perit, which is a Latin word, which means the words of a statute must be construed so as to lead to sensible meaning. Okay, so there may be a case where you're doing a literal literal construction or interpretation, and it might not give you a sensible meaning. Okay, are you kidding me? Are you making me a kid? Okay, that does not make sense. So according to the rule of reasonable construction, the statute should give you a proper meaning, a sensible meaning. It should not result, or the interpretation of that should not result in some rubbish. Generally, the words or phrases of a statute are to be given their ordinary meaning. So normally when you read a statute or a sentence, you should ordinarily interpret it the way it is. All right, without thinking too much between the lines, without looking between the lines. If something ordinarily can make sense, that meaning should be taken in. Okay, a statute must be construed in such a manner so as to make it effective and operative on the principle of ut res mages veliat quam perit. It means in a sensible meaning. So while interpreting a law, two meanings are possible, one making the statute absolutely vague and meaningless, and the other leading to certainty and a meaningful interpretation. In such case, the latter interpretation must be followed. So whenever there is a reading of the interpretation, reading of the statute, and they gives you two meaning, one meaning is absolutely rubbish, which means nothing. It's absolutely vague and meaningless, and the other one gives you a definite meaning. Okay, then the latter interpretation should be followed always, which gives you a definite meaning and a meaningful interpretation. Let's look at an example. In the case of Dr. A.L. Murlidhar versus LIC, 1963, 33 Compass 420 Supreme Court, it was held that the memorandum of association of a company must be read fairly and its import derived from a reasonable interpretation of the language which it employs. Further, in order to determine whether a transaction is intra-vires the objective of the company, the object clause should be reasonably construed, neither with rigidity nor with laxity. Now, in this case, in Dr. A.L. Mudaliar versus LIC of India, 1963, 33 comp case 420 Supreme Court, it was held that to know whether a particular transaction is intra-vires means within the power, or ultra-vires means beyond the power of the objects mentioned in the memorandum of association of the company. The memorandum of association should be read properly. It should be read neither too rigidly and neither too laxly, and we should try and understand what the real meaning was. So that it was basically done to find out whether a particular act was allowed to be done by the company or not, and whether the act was allowed in their memorandum of association. Because if an act is allowed by the memorandum of association, it is known as intra-vires, the objects of the company. And if any activity is beyond the powers of the memorandum of association, it is known as ultra-vires, the objects of the company, and such an activity or contract is absolutely void. Okay? All right, take a minute, go through this. Take a minute or two, go through this. Okay, now we come to the third rule. That is the rule of harmonious construction. So now we looked at two rules. One is literal construction. That means as the words, whatever message the words convey, we should look at it that way without reading too much in between the lines. And then we saw the rule of reasonable construction, which means we should take that meaning which is sensible and not that meaning which is rubbish, when a particular word or phrase is capable of giving us two meanings. Now we look at rules of harmonious construction. When there is a doubt about the meaning of the word of a statute, these should be understood in the sense in which they harmonize with the subject of the enactment and the object which the legislature had in view. Their meaning is found not so much in a strictly grammatical or etymological proprietary of language, nor even in its popular use, as in the subject or in the occasion to which they are used and object to be attended. So now this simply means, if you read it carefully, whenever there is a doubt about the meaning of a statute, they should be understood in the sense in which they fall in place, or let me say amalgamate within the whole objects or intention of the statute. It should not give a meaning which is completely away from the intention of the statute or the law. Okay, so you should amalgamate or absorb it into the meaning or the objective of the enactment. Let's take an example. As per the facts given by Raj Krishna versus Binod, AIR 1924, Supreme Court 202, there is a conflict between Section 32 and Section 123(8) of the Representation of People Act 1951. Section 33(2) stated that a government servant may nominate or second a candidate seeking election, whereas Section 123(8) provided that a government servant is not entitled to assist a candidate in an election in any manner except by casting his vote. Alright, so if you notice here, Section 32 says that a government servant may nominate or second a candidate seeking election, whereas Section 123(8) provides that a government servant is not entitled to assist a candidate in an election in any manner except casting his vote. So the 33 says he can nominate, a government servant can nominate a candidate for election, whereas Section 123(8) says he is not entitled to assist a candidate in any election in any manner except by providing his vote. SC observed that both these provisions should be harmoniously interpreted and held that a government servant was entitled to nominate or second a candidate seeking election to the state legislature assembly. The harmony could be achieved only if Section 123(8) of the Act is interpreted as conferring power on a government servant of voting as well as proposing and seconding a candidature and forbidding him from assisting a candidate in any other manner. So now, as per harmonious construction of statutes, it was decided that, okay, the law meant that a public servant can vote for any candidate, but it did not mean that he cannot help him in any way or cannot give a candidature, cannot give a nomination for a candidature, because by giving a nomination, it is not basically violating any law. Alright, so he is just nominating a candidate and then casting his vote for him, and other people are free to cast their votes as well. So it was held that in the harmonious construction of the statute, a public servant was allowed to nominate a candidate as well as vote for him, but not help him in any other manner. This is what it meant. Okay, so please take about 2 minutes to 3 minutes, go through this slide, and then we proceed. Please take about a minute or two, go through this, and then we proceed. Just a second. Okay, This was to do with the harmonious construction. Okay. Now we come to the rule number 4. Which is rule of beneficial construction, or the Hayden's rule. Where the language used in a statute is capable of more than one interpretation, the most firmly established rule for construction is the principle laid down in Hayden's case. Okay, now Hayden's case is a landmark case in case of beneficial construction. So we will look at what the Hayden's case is. All right. The rule, which is also known as purposive construction, or the Hayden's rule, or mischief rule, enables consideration of 4 matters construing the act. So the Hayden's rule gives us 4 conclusions or 4 guidelines. First one, what is the law before making the act? What was the mischief or defect for which the law did not provide? What is the remedy that the act has provided? And what is the reason for the remedy? So the rule of beneficial construction, or the Hayden's rule, gave us 4 simple guidelines to explain to us the interpretation of statutes as per beneficial construction. So like I have kept telling you from the beginning also, we need to know the intention of the law. So Hayden's rule has given us the following guidelines, that when there is a particular act that was done, now we are interpreting the law. What was the act? What was the law before making the particular act? So when we are interpreting or constructing a particular law, the first step is to see before that law came into the picture, what was the law? Okay, point number 1. Then, before that law came into the picture, what was the law? And what was the mischief or defect for which the law did not provide? Now see, always remember, a law or something comes into the picture not just like that, but basically because there is a need for it. There are certain acts or something done, and that is why the need for it arises. Now let's take for example the Satyam scam that happened a few years ago. Until then we had the Companies Act 1956, right, which was a little complacent towards the penalties and the misconducts. But because of the Satyam case, the government and everyone decided that the Companies Act needs to be more robust and more strict. And so they came up with the Companies Act 2013, which employed a lot of responsibility on the CEO, MDs and the officers in charge of the company, that in case they did anything wrong, they would be heavily penalized. Okay, so now let's come back to the beneficial construction. So what was the law before making the act? Now before the law, Companies Act 2013 came into the picture, the law was not so strict on CEOs, COs, MDs and other officers in charge, correct? But, and then what was the mischief? Now after the Satyam case, there was a lot of mischief also which they wanted to address. Correct, like the responsibility on the CEO, falsification of accounts, embezzlement of cash and everything. Then what is the remedy that the act had provided? Then the Companies Act 2013 came into the picture, and the remedy provided it fixed a lot of responsibility on the officers in charge, the MDs, the directors and everything. And what is the reason for the remedy? The reason for the remedy was because more and more companies or more and more things were happening, and for that reason, to not repeat a Satyam kind of a case, the whole thing was done. Alright, so the Hayden's rule gave 4 simple guidelines for interpreting any law or statute. What was the law before making the act? What was the mischief or defect for which the law did not provide? Okay, so obviously that gave rise to the new law. And what is the remedy that the act or the new act has provided, and what is the reason for that remedy? If you answer these 4 questions, it would lead to a beneficial construction of the Hayden's rule. Alright, now let's look at an example. A statute which requires notice of action for anything done are to be construed as including an omission of an act which ought to be done, as well as the commission of a wrongful act. Okay, let's read it again. A statute which requires notice of action for anything done are to be construed as an including an omission of an act which ought to be done, as well as the commission of a wrongful act. Where a statute requires something to be done by a person, it would generally be sufficient compliance with it if the thing is done by another person on his behalf and by his authority, for it would be presumed that the statute does not intend to prevent the application of general principle of law. Q fac per alium fecit per se. He who acts through another is deemed to act in person. This would also be unless there is something in either the language or the object of the statute which shows the personal act was intended. All right. So now, in case an act says that something has to be done by a person, it could also be construed that the compliance of that provision, if that person gets that activity done by someone else by authorizing him, the act does not stop him from getting it done from someone and saying that no, only you told me, or the act says that you have to do it, so you have to do it. It can get it done by someone else as well. All right. So this is to do with the rules of beneficial construction, or the Hayden's rule. Please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Take about 2 minutes, go through this. And then we proceed. Now we come to the fifth rule. The fifth rule is of rule of exceptional construction. The rule of exceptional construction stands for the elimination of statutes and words in a statute which defeat the real objective of the statute or make no sense. It also stands for construction of the words and, or, may, shall, and must. All right. So similar to what the very similar to what the reasonable construction means. The rules of exceptional construction looks to eliminate the meaning which defeat the real objective of the statute or make no sense. It also stands for construction of the words and, or, may, shall, and must. So the exceptional construction aims to explain and identify the true meaning of the words and, or, may, shall, and must. The words may and shall mean the same, and the words must and should mean the same. And or means exclusive or inclusive. All right. So this is the rule of exceptional construction. Now, the last rule is rule of adjustum generis, which is helping in literal construction. Okay. Now, no, this is a general rule. Rules of interpretation which we need to use in the subject. The term adjustum generis means of the same kind or species. Where any act enumerates different subjects, general words following specific words are to be construed and understood with reference to the word that precede them. Those words are to be taken as applying to things of the same kind as the specific word previously mentioned, unless there is something to show that a wider sense was intended. Thus, the rule of adjustum generis means that where specific words are used and other specific words, and after those specific words, some general words are used, the general words would take their color from the specific words. So adjustum general means whatever general words follow any specific words, those general words will take the color of those specific words. All right. And they cannot deviate from the meaning of those specific words. All right. Please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. So adjustum generis means where any specific words are followed by general words, or any general words are followed by specific words, then the general words take the color of the specific words. They cannot be made to mean or understand differently. Please take about a minute more. Now, the rule applies when? The rule of adjustum generis applies when the statute contains an enumeration of specific words. The subject of the enumeration consists a class or category. That class or category is not exhausted by the enumeration. The general terms follow enumeration and there is no indication of a different legislative event. Okay, so the rule of adjustum generis will follow or apply only when the statute contains an enumeration of specific words. That means there are an array or a bunch of specific words that are to be used, that are used. The subjects of enumeration or constitute a class or category, and those subject or the specific words make a particular category or space or a meaning. Okay. That class or category is not exhausted by the enumeration. So that means that the whole topic is not exhausted by that enumeration of specific words, and the general terms follow such enumeration. So first there is a bunch of specific words. Those specific words do not finish the topic or the sentence. Okay, and they are followed by general words. Then there is then in that case the general words will take the color of the specific words. Okay, unless there is an indication of a different legislative event. Example, just and equitable clause in the winding up powers of the courts is held to be not restricted by the first 5 situations in which the court may wind up the company. That means obviously when we see the conditions in which the court may wind up a company, and the last one, the residual category we see is just and equitable, right? So it simply means that the just and equitable clause in winding up powers of the company courts is held to be not restricted by the first 5 situations in which the court may wind up the company. That means in other than those 5 conditions, if the court feels any other need to order the winding up of the company which is just and equitable, the court may order so. Okay, please take about a minute, go through this. Take about a minute more. Okay, now we looked at the primary rules of interpretation. Now we look at the secondary rules of interpretation. First one, the effect of usage. Usage or practice developed under the statute is indicative of the meaning recognized to its words by contemporary opinion. Contemporary means by general or popular opinion. A uniform notorious practice continued under an old statute and inaction of the legislature to amend the same are important factors to show that the practice so followed was based on correct understanding of the law. When the usage or practice receives judicial or legislative approval, it gains additional weight. So the first secondary rule of interpretation is effect of usage. So like we say a particular trade practice or commercial practice, there is also certain usage. That means in legal terminology, a certain word is used or meant something. All right, so that meaning or that purpose is carried on by the courts as well. So it could be possible that a notorious practice continued under an old statute, and inaction of the legislature to amend the same are important factors to show that the practice so followed was based on correct understanding of the law. Okay, so also there was some notorious practice continued under an old statute also, which were later corrected due to this. In this connection, we have to bear in mind 2 Latin maxims: optima legum interpres est consuetude, that means the custom is the best interpreter of the law, and contemporanea exposito est optima et forticinia in lege, the best way to interpret a document is to read it as if it would have been read when made. Okay, so these are the two Latin maxims that helps you in also interpreting the statute. The first one says that the custom is the best interpreter of law. That means the normal usage and the normal meaning in legal or usage will be the best interpreter of the law. And the second one is the best way to read a document is to read it as it would have been read when made. Obviously, when it was made, it had something in mind. It was done to address a particular mischief or act. So it's best to imagine that it is being read as it would have been made, as it is being made at that point. Therefore, the best interpretation construction of a statute or any other document is that which has been made by contemporary authority. Contemporary authority means the popular authority, popular or the modern authority. All right. Example: documents issued by the government simultaneously with the notification under Section 6(1) of the Securities Contract Regulation Act were used as contemporanea expositio of the notification. All right. That's the example. Please go through this. So the first secondary rule of interpretation is effect of usage, that is normally or by majority of the people, popular crowd, modern crowd. How is the word interpreted and used? We need to use the same meaning. Take about a couple of minutes, read this, and then we proceed. Take about a minute more, go through this. Read it. Take about 10 seconds more. Okay, now the secondary method or rules of interpretation are associated words to be understood in common sense manner. When two words are expressed or two words or expressions are coupled together, one of which generally excludes the other, obviously the more general term is used in the meaning excluding the specific one. On the other hand, there is a concept of nocitur es socis. It is known as by its associates. This is to say the meaning of a word is to be judged by the company it keeps. Okay, so it means when there are two or more words that come together always, then both of them are supposed to be understood in the same meaning. As the term says, nocitur es socis, it means the meaning of a word is to be judged by the company it keeps. So when there are two words, they give completely different meaning that cannot be accepted. They have to be accepted in conjunction with each other. For example, in an expression, commercial establishment means an establishment which carries on any business, trade or profession. The term profession was construed with the associated words business and trade, and it was held that private dispensary was not within the definition. So obviously, when by example we mean when there is a term used as commercial establishment, these are two words together. Commercial means any commercial activity, which means business, trade or profession, and establishment means any body or structure. All right, so it was very easy to interpret it that any establishment or any body or entity which carries on business, trade or profession was included therein, and obviously from it, a private dispensary was not within the definition, so it was removed because the meaning of a word is to be judged by the company it keeps. All right. I'm sorry for the straight line. Please take a minute, go through this. Okay, I think I removed that straight line. Okay, now we come to the internal aids. Just one second. Okay, so far we saw about the literal construction, the harmonious, the reasonable, the exceptional, and other rules of construction, and then we saw the secondary rules of interpretation of construction. Now let's look at certain internal aids to interpretation or construction. Now the internal aids means internal to the statute or law. That means contained in the statute or law. Now what are the various internal aids to interpretation or construction? We have a long title, that is the name of the law itself. So for example, if it is a Motor Vehicles Act, so we know that this law or statute regards to motor vehicles and nothing else. Okay, then the preamble. Always any law has a preamble as to how it came into existence, what led to its this thing, and what are the things that are included in that, which are not included in that. So with that also we get an idea. Then the headings of the various sections, that also give us an idea about and help as internal aids to interpretation. Then there is marginal notes. For every section there are marginal notes given, so those notes also help us in interpretation or construction of a statute. Notes, definitions, then there are various definitions given in the law. Sections, the various section numbers, sections plus the names of those sections. Illustrations also an important internal aid for interpretation and construction of statutes, which help us to understand them better. Like as a student, even I always used illustrations to understand things better, and illustrations always help me understand a particular concept. All right, then there is a proviso. A proviso is a breakup of a section or the next level of a section. Then there is always an explanation to various sections and various notes given in the statute. There are various schedules given at the end of the act to refer to, and then read the statute as a whole. Please remember, the statute needs to be read as a whole and not bits by pieces deciphering it. It needs to be read as a whole and to get its correct meaning. Now we are going to go forward and look at each of these items in detail as to how these internal aids help in interpretation or construction of a statute. Now let's look at the first one. The first one is long title. An enactment would have what is known as a short title and also a long title. The short title merely identifies the enactment and is chosen merely for convenience. The long title, on the other hand, describes the enactment and does not merely identify it. Okay, so always remember, to a title to an act, there's a short title and a long title. A short title simply gives the name of the act and is used merely for convenience, whereas a long title, on the other hand, describes the enactment and does not merely identify it. For example, the full title of the Supreme Court Advocates Practice in High Courts Act 1951 specifies that this is an act to authorize the advocates of the Supreme Court to practice as of right in any high court. Okay, so that means when we are looking at a long title, when you're looking at the title of an act, there is a short title and a long title, and the long title always gives us more information about the purpose and the objects of the act, rather than a short title which merely gives us the name of the act. Okay. Then we have a preamble. The preamble expresses the scope, the object and purpose of the act more comprehensively than the long title. Okay, the preamble may recite the ground and the cause of making a statute and the evil which is sought to be remedied by it. So if you see any law, first will be a short title, then a long title, and then you will find the preamble. The preamble is nothing else but gives us an explanation or commentary on the scope, the object and the purpose of the act, and also the grounds or the reasons for which the act came into the picture, and the mischief for which it was brought to address that mischief. All right, so which mischief it was made to address, that also will be put in the preamble. So the preamble helps us or puts us in a sort of a halo of the act. That means in an atmosphere of the act, that okay, this act deals with all this, and gives us an idea. So next, when we read the section, the subsection, explanations and provisions, we know it relates to what. Like for example, if it is Motor Vehicles Act, when we read it, we know it is in relation to a motor vehicle, the registration, or an accident, or a life, or an insurance, or some violation of the Motor Vehicles Act. It could not mean, we cannot, while reading a Motor Vehicles Act, we cannot say that it could also mean a medical negligence case, right? But so when we are reading that statute or act, we know that whatever is there in that relates to a motor vehicle and matters related to it. So for example, where the words or phrase has more than one meaning and a doubt arises as to which of the two meanings is intended in the act, the preamble can be and ought to be referred to in case to give it a proper construction. Like I told you, in case it is a Motor Vehicles Act or the Supreme Court Advocates Practice in High Courts Act 1951. So if there is any term or clause in that, it will mean in relation to the Supreme Court Advocates Practice in High Courts Act, and it could not mean a medical negligence case. So for that, a preamble is very important. All right, please take a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Please take a minute. Please remember all those rules that we discussed now: rules of literal construction, reasonable construction, harmonious construction, beneficial construction, exceptional construction. All those rules have to be used here when we are interpreting or we are using the internal aids. And next we come to the external aids in interpretation as well. Those are the rules. All right. So just take about 30 seconds more, go through this, and then we proceed. All right. Next. Now we've seen the long title and the preamble. Now we look at the headings or title of the chapter. Okay. If we glance through any act, we would generally find that a number of its sections applicable to any particular object are grouped together, sometimes in the form of chapters, prefixing or headings and or titles. These headings and titles prefixed to sections or groups of sections can be legitimately referred to as for the purpose of construing the enactment of these parts. So it simply means whenever you look at any law, okay, so the similar topics will be grouped and there will be a heading given for that. For example, registration under the GST Act. Okay, now under the GST Act, there will be one topic which is registrations, and under that registration, they will say the people who are, what do you mean by registration, who are supposed to register, what are the people who are exempted from registering. So once you register, what are your rules and responsibilities? Once you register, then where do you need to register, the procedure to register. So all those topics or similar topics under that heading, you will find it in one place. So the headings or title of a chapter will also help you in interpreting and constructing of a law, in case where while reading those topics, if you have any question, you need to immediately go to the heading and see, okay, this comes under registration, so it could mean something related to that itself. Okay, now example, the chapter contained in Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 read as limitation for taking cognizant cognizance of certain offences was held to be controlling, and it was held that cumulative reading of various provisions in the said chapter clearly indicated that the limitation prescribed therein was only for the filing of the complaint or initiation of the prosecution and not for taking cognizance. Okay, so like for example, under the chapter contained in the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 read as limitation for taking cognizance of certain offences. Okay, now this means this is the limitation period was not for taking cognizance. Cognizance is for taking action or arresting the person, but it was held that the limitation period is for filing the case or for initiation of the prosecution and not for taking cognizance. Okay, that was the information that you get from the heading and title of a chapter. Marginal notes. Although there is a difference of opinion regarding resort to marginal notes for construing an enactment, the generally held view is that the marginal notes append to a section cannot be used for construing the section. Marginal notes in an Indian statute, as in an act of parliament, cannot be referred for the purpose of construing the statute, and the same view has been taken in many other cases. Article 286 of the Constitution furnishing prima facie some clue as to the meaning and purpose of the article. So whenever you find marginal notes in the law, in any statute, those actually cannot be taken to construe or interpret a law that has been given by the Supreme Court judgment as well. All right, please take a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Please take a minute, go through this, and then we proceed. Take a minute more, go through this, and then we proceed. Okay, then we come to the definitions. Definitional sections, interpretation clauses. The legislature has the power to embody in any statute itself the definitions of its language, and it is quite common to find in the statutes definitions of certain words and expressions used in the body of the statute. When a word or phrase is defined as having a particular meaning in the enactment, it is that meaning alone which must be given to it in interpreting a section of the act, unless there may be a repugnant in the context. The court cannot ignore the statutory definition and try and extract what it considers to be the true meaning of the expression. So if you see any act, firstly in the first chapter you will find a section called as definitions. So if there's any act or statute which has definitions given to you, then the meaning of that word will be exactly as per the definition given to you in that statute, unless the applicability of that word is makes no sense. In that case, you can take another meaning. Otherwise, the court cannot ignore the statutory definition of a word and extract what it considers to be true meaning of the expression independently of it. So if there's any definition given in the act, that definition or the word has to be used in that same meaning only. Okay, this is the definition extract interpretation clause. Please take about 30 seconds, go through this. Okay. Now, construction of definitions may be understood under the following headings. Now, let's go further and look at the various definitions given under statute. Firstly, the definitions could be restrictive and extensive definitions. The definitions could be ambiguous definitions, or the definitions subject to a contrary context. So let's look at firstly what is restrictive and extensive definitions. The definition of a word or expression in a definition section may either be restricting of its ordinary meaning or may be extensive. That means either it could be completely inclusive or it could be exhaustive. Right? Exhaustive means there can be no other things included in that, and inclusive means there can be similar items of the like be included in the definition. Okay, so let's take the example. The usage of the word any in a definition may connotes extension, for any is a word of very wide meaning, and prima facie the use of it excludes limitation. That means it is a very inclusive definition. So for example, commercial establishment could mean any establishment carrying on business, profession or trade. So that makes it a very inclusive definition. That is not exhaustive. Okay, so the word any also makes it inclusive. Now the next one, inclusive definition of lease given under section 216C of the Stamp Act has been widely construed to cover transactions for a particular purpose of Stamp Duty Act which may not amount to a lease under section 105 of the Transfer of Property Act 1882. So here also we see the various kinds of transactions that may not amount to lease. So it's a very inclusive transaction. Alright, so it could mean any, this also, that also, this also, if it follows certain or fulfills certain criteria. The third example, if A is deemed to be B, compliance with A is in law compliance with B. The contravention of A is in law contravention of B. Okay, for example, if A is deemed to be B, compliance with A is in law compliance with B, and contravention of A is in law contravention of B. That is if A is deemed to be B. Okay, where it means the same. Please take about a minute or two and go through this, and then we proceed. Okay, then we come next one to what you mean by ambiguous definitions. Sometimes you may find that the definition section may itself be ambiguous. Ambiguous means vague or unclear, and so it may have to be interpreted in the light of other provisions of the Act and having regard to the ordinary meaning of the word defined. Such type of definition is not to be read in isolation. It may be read in the context of the phrase which it defines, realizing that the function of a definition is to give accuracy and certainty to a word or phrase which would otherwise be vague and uncertain, but not to contradict or depose it altogether. So sometimes what happens, the statute gives you a definition of a word, but that definition of the word itself is unambiguous and vague, ambiguous and vague. So in that case, that word should not be read or tried to be understood in isolation. It must be understood in the context in which it is used or the subject in which it is used, and then derive the meaning from that context or the subject. Okay, otherwise it would give you a completely different and meaningless meaning. Example, termination of service. Termination of service of a seasonal worker after the work was over does not amount to retrenchment as per Industrial Dispute Act 1947. Anil Bapurao, Karase versus Krishna Sahakari Sahakar Karkhana, Supreme Court 2698. Okay, now the definition as per Industrial Dispute Act 1947 means termination of service of a seasonal worker after the work was over does not amount to retrenchment as per Industrial Disputes Act 1947. But the termination of employment of a daily worker who is engaged in a project on completion of the project will amount to retrenchment if the worker has not been told when employed that his employment will end on the completion of the project. All right, so here if you see, the definition given is vague and ambiguous, and so it should be construed or understood in the context in which it is used. All right, please take about a minute or two, go through this, and then we proceed. Go through this, take a couple of minutes. Take about a minute more and then we proceed. Okay, then we look at definitions subject to contrary context. When a word is defined to bear a number of inclusive meanings, the sense in which the word is used in a particular provision must be ascertained from the context of the scheme of the act, the language of the provision, and the object intended to be served thereby. That means whenever the definition is inclusive, then we need to take the context. Into account. All right, so if you see, a lot of things are pretty similar sounding in this thing. So interpretation is not a very strict watertight compartment kind of a thing. You know, we need to see the situation and then we need to decide on the method that we want. All right, now next we look at next internal aid for interpretation of statute is illustrations. Now in a lot of acts, a lot of illustrations are provided which will help us in understanding and the applicability and context of that particular provision. Okay, we would find that many, though not all, sections have illustrations append to them. These illustrations follow the text of the sections and therefore do not form a part of the sections. However, illustrations do form part of the statute and are considered to be of relevance and value in construing the text of the sections. However, illustrations cannot have the effect of modifying the language of the section and can neither curtail nor expand the ambit of a section. So please remember, illustrations can only explain to you the meaning of a particular section. They can neither restrict it or expand the meaning or the applicability of a particular section, but it helps you understand the applicability of a section in a particular scenario. Example, in holding that section 73 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 does not permit the award of interest as damages for mere detention of debt, The Privy Council rejected the argument that illustration given in the Act can be used for arriving at a contrary result. It was observed that nor can an illustration have the effect of modifying the language and nor of the section which alone forms the enactment. So illustration simply explains to you a particular provision. It has neither the strength to expand the ambit of a particular section or restrict the ambit of a particular section. Then we come to proviso. The normal function of a proviso is to accept something out of the enactment or to qualify something stated in the enactment which should be within its purview if the proviso was not there. The effect of proviso is to qualify the preceding enactment which is expressed in terms which are too general. As a general rule, a proviso is added to the enactment to qualify or create an exception to what is there in the enactment. Ordinarily, a proviso is not an interpretation as stating a general rule. Okay, so normally what this thing says is a proviso is not a interpretation tool, but it is a statement which gives the exceptions to that rule where a proviso is inserted. So it is not in strict sense not interpreted, okay, as stating a general rule. All right, please take about a couple of minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Take about a minute more. Carefully read this. We're almost at the end of this topic. I think just a few more slides left. We will finish this. Then, now we come to an important thing, that is a distinction between a proviso, exception, and saving clause. Exception, proviso, and saving clause, that's the heading. Exception is intended to restrain the enacting clause to a particular cases. That means proviso is used to remove special cases from general enactment and provide for them specially. Okay, so basically an exception means where certain things are not applicable to a particular class of events or events, whereas proviso is used to remove special cases from general enactment and provide for them specifically, whereas proviso removes the specific cases and also gives the situations in which the specific cases will be applicable or the clauses which will be applicable to the specific cases alone. And a saving clause is used to preserve from destruction certain rights, remedies, or privileges already existing. All right, I request you to go through this, and then next we come to the explanation. An explanation is at times appended to a section to explain the meaning of the text of the section. An explanation may be added to include something within the section or to exclude something from it. An explanation should normally be so read as to harmonize with and clear up any ambiguity in the main section. It should not be construed as to widen the ambit of the section. So, an explanation shall be referred only when you need to know the real meaning or the context of a particular thing, and the whole purpose of the explanation is to give the meaning but not expand the ambit of a section. So it can give you the meaning, it can remove the ambiguity, but it will not widen the ambit of the section. Please take about a couple of minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. Okay, then we come to, I think, the last parts of the internal aids. There are schedules. The schedules form part of an act, therefore, they must be read together with the act for all purpose of construction. However, the expressions in the schedule cannot control or prevail over the expression in the enactment. So, even though the schedules are there to give a meaning to the purpose to the act, but they cannot override the expression of the enactment. If there appears to be an inconsistency between the schedule and the enactment shall always prevail. So, the act and the schedule, if there is any discrepancy between the two, the act shall always prevail. They often contain details and forms for working out the policy underlying the sections. For example, schedules appended to the Companies Act under the Constitution of India. So forms give you a general, schedules give you a general idea, but they cannot override the provisions or the sections of the act. Whenever there is a conflict between the two, the enactment will prevail. Then read the statute as a whole. This is the last internal aid for interpretation. It is the elementary principle that construction of a statute is to be made of all its parts taken together and not of only one part. Lord Waston, speaking with regard to deeds, had stated thus: the deed must be read as a whole in order to ascertain the true meaning of its several clauses, and the words of each clause should be so interpreted so as to bring them in harmony with provisions. If that interpretation does no violence to the meaning in which they are naturally susceptible. And the same approach would apply with equal force with regard to acts and rules of the legislature. So the most important thing is that the whole statute should be read as whole. The provisions, the headings, the rules and everything should be read in harmony with one another in order to construct and help each other grow. And it should not be read in a way which deviates from the whole topic. All right. So if if you read the statute as a whole, as a blanket, then you will get the meaning and the interpretation as well. For example, if one of the section of the act requires notice to be given, then a verbal notice would generally be sufficient. But if another section provides that notice should be served on the person or left with him or in a particular manner or place, then it would obviously indicate the written notice was intended. Okay, it means when you read the act as a whole, you get to know what it means at different places. So if in one place it has just said notice, then you can assume that oral notice is there. But if in immediate next section or a future section it says a notice should be served onto him physically or hard copy, then you can understand that the earlier mention of notice also meant physical or hard copy submission. All right, please take about 2 minutes, go through this, and then we proceed. I think we're almost at the end of the topic. Take a minute more. Okay, now we come to the last part of this topic, that is external aids to interpretation or construction. So we saw the internal aids, we saw the rules as to interpretation. Now let's look at the external aids. Society does not function in a void. Everything done has its reasons, its background, the particular circumstances prevailing at the time, and so on. These factors apply to the enactment as well. These factors are of great help in interpreting and construing an act, and have been given the convenient nomenclature of external aids to interpretation. Apart from the statute itself, there are many matters which may be taken into account when the statute is ambiguous. These matters are called external aids. Some of the factors enumerated are given below. Now, in the internal thing, we saw sections, explanations, headings, titles, marginal notes, and etc. Now we look at the external aids, historical setting as to what was the act before this particular came in, what was the background of enacting this act, what was the mischief for which this act was made. We need to look at all those things while interpreting, and that will give us a fair idea about the purpose of the act or statute. Consolidating statutes on previous law. So if any law has been repealed or replaced, then we need to see what was the previous law what were the things that it did not provide, and what were the things that are put in the new law. Okay, and what are the mischiefs that are being addressed. Usage again means normal usage in the courts as per customs. Earlier and later acts and analogous acts, then we need to see what are the connected acts, what are the acts that were there before, the old ones, what are the acts that have come up, and what are the acts that have come on later after this act, which help in which modify or add or reduce in this act. Dictionary definitions, we need to use certain words in which there is no legal terms or legal meanings. We need to see the dictionary meanings, and then we need to see use of foreign decisions in case after all this also, if certain words or some things are ambiguous, then we need to see decisions of foreign courts of law to get a guidance of what it meant. Okay, so these are the external aids of interpretation and construction which may be used in case the previous methods do not help us in interpretation. Okay, please take about a minute and proceed, and then this thing. Okay, so this is the end of this topic. Okay, now we also have the explanation for each of these topics. The historical setting. The history of the external circumstances which led to the enactment in question is of much significance in construing any enactment. We have for this purpose to take help from all those external or historical facts which are necessary in the understanding and comprehension of the subject matter and scope of the object of the enactment. History in general and parliamentary history in particular, ancient statutes, contemporary or other authentic works and writings are all relevant in interpreting and construing an act. We have also to consider whether the statute in question was intended to alter the law or leave it where it stood before. So we need to see the law before this came into law, where this came into picture, and see that when the old law was made, what was the situation, what was the parliament situation, and what were the things that it did not address, and what are the things that a new law is brought into to address. Okay, then we see consolidating statutes and previous law. The preamble to many statutes contain expressions such as an act to consolidate the previous law. In such a case, the courts may stick to the presumption that it is not intended to alter the law. They may solve doubtful points of a statute with the aid of such presumptions in intention, rejecting the literal construction. So there might be certain cases where there is a consolidation of the previous law, which simply means they are trying to help clear the ambiguous parts of the previous law. Okay. Usage is also sometimes taken into consideration in construing an act. The act done under a statute provide quite often the key to the statute itself. It is a well-known point that where the meaning of a language in a statute is doubtful, usage, how the language has been interpreted and acted upon over a long period, takes into account. So if any terminology is vague or the meaning cannot come, then we need to see the usage of it to find the meaning, and how in the long period the meaning of that word has been treated by the various enactments. Okay, then we come to the earlier and later acts and analogous acts. Exposition of one act by language of another. The general principle is that where there are different statutes in parametria, that is in an analogous state, though made at different times or even expired and not referring to each other, they shall be taken and construed together as one system and explanatory for each other. This means when there are similar acts, whether old or new, and even though they might not be related to each other also, but if they're similar, then they shall be taken as one, and explanations can be used in one act of the other. If two acts are to be read together, then every part of such act has to be construed as if contained in one composite act. But if there is some clear discrepancy, then such a discrepancy may render it necessary to hold the later act had modified the earlier one. However, this does not mean that every word in the later act is to be interpreted in the same way as the earlier act. Okay, dictionary meanings. First, we have to refer to the act in question and find out if any particular word or expression is defined in it. If we need to check whether the statute has given any definition for any word, where we find that the word is not defined in the act, we may have to refer dictionaries to find out the general meaning. However, in selecting one of the several meanings of the word, we must always take into consideration the context. Okay, so if any word is not defined in the act, then we need to pull out a dictionary, find out the meaning of the word. Then there might be many meanings of the word. Then we need to select that meaning which fits into the particular context of the statute. All right. Lastly, use of foreign judgments. Foreign decisions of countries following the same system of jurisprudence as ours and given our laws similar to ours can legitimately be used for construction. That means the Great Britain, UK law can be used because most of our laws are derived from there. However, prime importance is always to be given to the language of the Indian statute. So the first preference is the Indian statute. If you cannot find anything in the Indian statute, then you go to foreign decisions. Further, where guidance can be made from Indian decisions, reference to foreign decisions may become unnecessary. Like I said, first preference is Indian decisions. If Indian decisions are there, you do not need to refer foreign decisions. All right, now with this, we complete the topic on interpretation of statutes, and I hope you found it useful and beneficial. And now let's come back to the Plus platform again. Like I told you, Unacademy has 3 platforms. That is, one is on, just one sec. One is on YouTube, what you've seen today. Then you have special classes, which is on the Unacademy Learning App. And then you have Plus, which is a payment-based subscription model. Whereas YouTube and special classes are absolutely free, provided by Unacademy, and anyone can access it. YouTube can be accessed on the YouTube, general YouTube, and special classes can be accessed on the Unacademy Learning App, which I will tell you a little further. And the Plus platform is a payment-based subscription model of Unacademy, which gives you various advantages and accelerates and enhances your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate course. For the following reasons, in the Plus platform of Unacademy, you get daily live classes where you get to chat with your educator, engage in discussions, ask your doubts and answer polls, all while the class is going on real-time basis. The Plus platform of Unacademy conducts various live tests and quizzes which help you evaluate your preparation, and with the regular mock tests and quizzes that the Plus platform conducts, you get a detailed analysis of your performance to identify your strong areas, your weak areas, and your not so strong areas, so that you can spend more time on your weak areas, less time on your strong areas, and not so less time on your not so strong areas. The courses provided by the Plus platform of Unacademy are structured courses. They are structured because they are completely in line with your syllabus. And once you finish a particular course on the Plus platform, you can rest assured that you've completed the syllabus for your examination. And that's the reason why they are considered as structured courses. And lastly, and most importantly, the one subscription to the Unacademy Plus platform gives you unlimited access to the live and recorded courses to watch from the comfort of any of your devices, that is your desktop, laptop, tablet or mobile, at any point, at any time. There is no restriction. All you need is a good data connection or a Wi-Fi, and they are done. You can access it wherever you want to. So keeping these things in mind, I request you to get onto the Plus platform as soon as possible and take advantage of the various benefits it offers you. For those of you who have downloaded the Unacademy Learning App and are using it, I thank you very much. For those of you who have not yet downloaded it, I request you to go to the Play Store of your phone, download the Unacademy Learning App and register on it using your mobile number when you get an OTP, and you register on it. It's as simple as that. In case you have any difficulties there, you can always chat with the concerned person who will resolve your difficulties. So what do you get once you register on the Unacademy Learning App? Once you register on the Unacademy Learning App, you get access to the world of special classes and the Plus platform of Unacademy that it has to offer in order to accelerate and enhance your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate course. While the Plus platform is a payment-based subscription model, the special classes are absolutely free and you can access them. And even in the special class, there are various important topics that concerning your examinations, and it will help you in your preparation. And similarly on YouTube, you have a lot of important content, important topics on YouTube as well, which will help you in your preparation. So once again, if you have not downloaded the Unacademy Learning App, please go to the Play Store, download it from there, put in your mobile number, put in the OTP that is sent to your mobile number, and register on it. All right. Now, like I told you, the Plus platform of Unacademy is a payment-based subscription model. The various packages for the CA Foundation and Intermediate subscription provided under the Plus platform of Unacademy are as follows. The packages provided are for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months and 24 months. The 1 month package ordinarily costs you rupees 3,500. The 3 month package costs you rupees 8,750. The 6 month package costs you rupees 14,000. The 12 month package costs you rupees 17,500, and the 24 months package costs you rupees 21,000. Okay, my personal recommendation would be to go for the 12 month package or the 24 months package. I will explain that in a bit. But before you do that, before you go on and pay for the package you want, please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get a discount of 10% on the listed price. I repeat, Prathik, P-R-A-T-H-I-K, to get a discount of 10% on the listed price. So the after discount cost of each package is 3,150 for the 1 month. The 3 month package costs you rupees 7,875. The 6-month package costs you rupees 12,600. The 12-month package costs you rupees 15,750, and the 24-month package costs you rupees 18,900. Now, let me come back as to why I recommend the 12 months and 24 months package to you. If you see the 12-month package and compare it with the 1-month package, the per month cost of the 12-month package on the 24-month package is almost less than 1/3 of the 1-month package cost. Okay, so it's very cost effective. And secondly, as you're getting the CA Foundation and the intermediate subscription in one package, it normally takes about a year for you to prepare and clear the CA Foundation and the intermediate examination. So it makes sense for you to start at least with the 12 months package, where you get a cost effective solution for the entire duration of your course. All right, so my recommendation is go for the 12 months and 24 months package, and please do not forget to use the code Prathik to get a discount of 10% on the listed price when you're about to make the payment. And I hope you make the most of the Plus platform as soon as possible, because there are a lot of people who have already used the Plus platform and are benefiting immensely. And one more important point is there is a zero cost EMI option available in the 6-month, 12 months and 24 months package. Just in case you do not want to pay the entire amount at once, you can avail this no cost EMI option for 6 months, 12 months and 24 months subscription. All right, now like I told you, the Plus platform is present on the Unacademy Learning App. So you need to download the Unacademy Learning App and register on it using the OTP sent to your mobile phone, and that will give you access to the various special classes and the Plus courses that Unacademy has to offer you. I have taken a lot of special classes on the Unacademy Learning App. A few of them are in front of you. I have taken courses on special classes on the revision test papers, May 2019 business laws issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Sale of Goods Act 1930, Indian Contracts Act 1872, Companies Act 2013. Now, if you see there is part 1, part 2, part 1 and part 3 mentioned, that means there are a lot of parts in that and broken up into a lot of parts, which add up to a great content of about 2 to 3 hours. The Companies Act is taken for about 7 hours. So you can go there, and there are various other revision test papers also discussed. So I request you to go on to the Unacademy Learning App and go through all the special classes that are there and that may interest you and help you in your preparation. Also, on this slide, I have given you a few links to the special classes that I have taken. I request you to click on the link and go on to the Unacademy Learning App and access these sessions. I have taken sessions on Indian Contracts Act, Sale of Goods Act, Indian Partnership Act, Limited Liability Partnership Act, Companies Act, Basics of Communication, Accounting Concepts, Revision Test Papers May 2020, Revision Test Papers November 2019, May 2019 and November 2018, to name a few. So there are various sessions of mine on special classes of mine on the Unacademy Learning App. I request you to go through them and click on the following, click on any of the links that interest you and go through those sessions. Trust me, it will help you and benefit you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate course. All right, so with this, I think we come to the end of the session. So come, let's crack CA exams with Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. And please do not forget to use the code Prathik when you subscribe for the Plus platform of Unacademy. All right, PRATHIK. So please subscribe. Thank you so much. Good night and take care till I see you. My next YouTube session is tomorrow at 5 p.m. and then at 9 p.m. again. Okay, so please be there and do attend my session. Thank you so much and see you soon. And please do not miss my special classes on Sunday, which are on very important and interesting topics that will help you in your preparation for the CA Foundation and Intermediate examinations. So please stay tuned to know more about the classes. Thank you and good night.